Thank you for pressing start on episode 33 of Underplayed, KZUM's indie video game podcast. Today, we recap and reflect on the games of Season 3 and take a look ahead by planning our featured game roster for Season 4. Here on Underplayed, we review indie games of all kinds, the games with small budgets but big hearts, the lesser-known experiences with imaginative ideas. I'm Bopo, and joining me is my player 2, DiscoCola. What is up, DiscoCola?
I have no reference to offer you today, Bopo, so I'm feeling a little bit free. How are you doing?
I'm in the same boat. I don't have any references to a featured game or anything like that because, hey, we are looking back at Season 3 of Underplayed. We're talking about all of our secret games, all of our featured games. We're talking about the scores we gave to the games. We're talking about what our favorite aspects of the games were, our favorite surprises, favorite characters, favorite moments, all kinds of things like that. It's one of my favorite episodes to do with you.
We are big stat nerds here, so it's the perfect episode for us.
We will actually start the episode by looking at stats as we look at all these ratings, these superficial scores we give to these games, DiscoCola. But we're also going to largely disregard those scores once we get to the awards. Once we start ranking our 5 favorite games from the season, we're going to ignore those scores. So we get a little bit of the dorky statistician stuff. We also get to just give out those awards without a care in the world. And, I'll say up top, a lot of our opinions on this stuff reflect how we feel in this very moment we're sitting down to record. As we sit down to record, we've just finished kind of reviewing Slay the Spire last week. It's been a week or so. Now we're coming together. I don't know what you have picked for all your awards.
I have a couple of different selections based on how I might feel when we actually get to the question.
Wow.
So
okay. So there's some a little choose your own adventure stuff
going
on.
A little bit.
That's exciting. Mine are locked in for now, but talk to me in a month and it might change. But we're not going to worry about that. So that's going to be what we do for a lot of this episode. But importantly, at the end of this episode, once we get through reflecting on Season 3, we're going to pick our lineup of 10 featured games for Season 4, which is so exciting to me. These are going to be the games that we feature in the 10 mainline episodes of our upcoming season, which will come out probably starting later in 2023. So I wanted to ask you, DiscoCola, before we get to our Season 3 recap and reflection, how do you just feel overall after Season 3, and what are you looking forward to playing during our break between seasons?
Ooh, I remember that we had these questions last time. I feel pretty good about Season 3. I think Season 3 had a really big turning point for me personally because I played games that I didn't like, which is not historically what has happened to me in Underplayed. Like even Disco Elysium, which is a game that was like really difficult for me to enjoy.
There's still so much there that you could appreciate.
Yeah, there was a lot that I still liked about it. But there were games this season that I didn't like, and I've been very generous with scores in the past, and there were scores that were not so generous this season for me. So I feel like I've shown that I am not
uber positive all
exactly,
the time. Yeah.
Exactly. I can be critical. And I think I've shown that this season. It wasn't like something I made an effort to do either.
Yeah.
It's just how it happened.
Yeah. I think that's showing your maturity and becoming a games reviewer. You're showing that range there.
Yeah. And as far as what I want to play in between seasons, I've been working on some old Underplayed games that still need trophies. I finished Those Who Remain. I finished Sayonara Wild Hearts. I'm working on the Echoes of the Eye DLC on Outer Wilds.
Nice.
And more old Underplayed games. And then hopefully this time I'll actually make some progress in Digimon between seasons. We'll see, but
it's a big game.
It depends on what we pick for Season 4.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I was actually really pleased with the 20 games that I played for Season 3. My expectations were exceeded, honestly. I don't think I have enjoyed all these games on average for Seasons 1 and 2 before Season 3. My average score for both secret game and featured games were just those scores were just high.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very pleased with the selection. And 16 of the games from Season 3 are currently on my top 100 indie game lists.
Nice.
I won't list them all now, but you can check that out at the GG app. My username is BOPO. That's BO_PO. And 16 of the 20 games I played are in that list. So that is awesome. As far as what I'm going to play between seasons, I said it last season. I'm going to say it again here. I just didn't get to do it last time. I got to work on some of these online trophies for games on PlayStation from like 2015 onwards. I'm going to do that. So there's a weird mixture of those games of all genres. They are like more AA or AAA games. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to make any promises like I did last time because I ended up really falling short of what I talked about.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you got
like,
quite a lot of them.
I listed like 5 or 6 games, I think, and I only did like 2 or 3. So
okay.
I'm not going to make any promises this time. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Now's the point where I would like to move on to the first official part of this episode, which is our Season 3 recap and reflection. And it will start with running down our secret games ratings. Then we're going to talk about any observations we have about just the scores. So any regrets we have about scores we made, maybe we thought we scored something too low or too high. So can you, DiscoCola, run through all of your secret games for Season 3 and what you rated them?
I sure can. Starting with episode 23, that's Season 3, episode 1. My secret game was Mutazione, and I rated that an 8.5. Next was The Unfinished Swan, and I rated that a 7.0. Rain World for episode 3, and I gave that a 6.5. Watum for episodes 4, and I gave that a 7.0. Metagal was next, and I gave that a 6.5. After that was Thumper, and I gave that a 7.5. I gave Narita Boy a 7.0 in episode 29. I gave Mighty Switch Force a 6.0. I gave Those Who Remain a 5.0. And then in our most recent episode, I gave Chenzo Club an 8.0.
Very nice. From episodes 23 through 32, this is the order of my secret games and then the ratings for each. So Raji and Ancient Epic, I gave it a 6. Device 6, I gave it a 9. The Procession to Calvary, I gave it a 7. Tori 2, which I gave a 7.5. Never Ending Nightmares, which I rated a 6.5. Carto, which I rated a 9.5. The Last Campfire, which I gave an 8. Stick It to the Man, which I rated a 5. Rusty Lake Hotel, 7.5. And When the Past Was Around, which I gave a 7.5. So now, what do we notice about these scores? And do you have any regrets about scores? Would you change anything now?
Well, you wrote down our averages, and mine was a 6.9. And so DiscoCola, the high scorer, has a lower average than you. If I would make any changes, I might boost Switch Force up half a point. I found many of those platforming puzzles really clever. I would take Those Who Remain down by like a lot.
Yeah. This is actually something we were talking about off air.
Yeah. I was working on getting the platinum over the last week, and every time I got to a new section, I'm like, oh, this is like the worst section of the game. Just let me get through it. And then I would get to the next section. I'm like, oh no, wait, this is the worst part of the game. And I just wanted to be done. So I would probably give it a 2.5.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Given all your criticisms in that episode, which was episode 31, I think that sounds really fair. But, you know, you gave it a 5 in our review, so that's what we will carve into the living rock of Underplayed.
On my headstone, it will say, DiscoCola gave Those Who Remain a 5.
Yes.
How about you?
Well, looking at mine, a lot of high scores, higher than other seasons in the past. My average rating was 7.35. And fun fact, I think your average rating this season for Secret Games was my average rating for Secret Games in Season 2.
Oh.
And I think Your average for featured games this season was also my average rating for featured games in season 2. If I'd have to go back and check, but
Wild.
when I was duplicating the document, I was going in and filling in the new numbers, and those numbers were already there, just swapped. So I was like, whoa, what are the odds of that? But yeah, I had Carto, which I rated a 9.5. I've never given a secret game that high of a rating, so I loved that game. I think I would adjust Neverending Nightmares down just a little bit. As I said in my review, there's a lot of indelible imagery that will stay with me, a lot of very scary, haunting, morbid things in that game. But I haven't thought back to it a lot, just as an experience as a whole. So I would go from a 6.5 maybe down to a 6, but very minor adjustment there. As I look at everything else makes sense. And when I'm crafting my top 100 indie games list, I'm always swapping in new games, taking out old games. To help me place games, I'm thinking about what score did I give it on Underplayed?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me order it. And as I look at what games are scored lower and what games are scored higher, I'm thinking, yeah, the lower games are lower on my top 100 games list and my higher games are higher up on the list. So that all makes sense. I thought it was really interesting how Rusty Lake Hotel and When the Past Was Around were basically the same gameplay ideas, but vastly different stories and like emotions in those games. And I gave both those games a 7.5. I don't think they're a copy and paste of each other, but they just kind of did the same idea pretty competently, in a way that was very much worth my time. So I thought that was a weird coincidence, and I didn't expect When the Past Was Around to be like the gameplay of Rusty Lake Hotel. I just didn't look into it as much. But so now let's go to our featured games.
All right.
This is our featured games recap. We're quickly running down our scores we gave to each featured game. I can just do this and read them all. So from episode 23 through 32, this is the order of our featured games and our scores. Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition, which we both gave a 9. To the Moon, which DiscoCola rated a 7. I rated an 8.5. Stray, which you rated a 9.5. I rated an 8.5. Return of the Obra Dinn, which you rated a 7.5. I rated a 9.5. Yooka-Laylee, you gave it a 6.5. I gave it a 5. Sayonara Wild Hearts, we both rated it a 10 out of 10.
Yes, we did.
On the Underplayed scale. The first time that's ever happened. Solar Ash, you gave it an 8.5. I rated it a 7.5. Baba Is You, you gave it a 7.5. I gave it an 8.5. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, you rated it a 6. I gave it an 8.5. And Slay the Spire, we both gave it a 9. So what do you notice about these scores?
So we differ on scores by multiple points, but managed to have a pretty similar average here. So I'm going to spoil yours and say it's 8.40 and mine is 8.05. So that's pretty similar. I don't think I have a lot of regrets. I might actually bring Stray down a little bit.
Like from a 9.5 to like a 9?
Yeah, I do hesitate a little bit because I haven't completed it yet, and maybe, I'll find a little bit more fun in there.
Sure.
I may even bump up Slay the Spire. I don't know. Maybe if it was a little bit less difficult, I think it would be a 9.5. But I think as it stands, it's a little bit too difficult of a game, especially for completionists. So I don't know. I'm somewhere between a 9.0 and 9.5, but I think about it a lot. I have a lot of fun with that game. As a side note, the day after our recording, I finally beat the game with the defect.
Heyo.
And I killed the Time Eater.
Hell yeah.
Which was awesome.
Oh, that's a good feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you sent me a screenshot of that, and you had so many orb slots and so many passive effects, powers going on.
Yeah.
That was legit.
That was fun. How about you?
Score-wise, I think it's really interesting. What are the odds of this, that we bookended the season with featured games where we each gave it a 9. So Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition, we each gave that a 9. And then Slay the Spire, our last episode of the season, we each gave that a 9. So I don't know that will happen again. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think we managed to pick bookends that are like weirdly accessible. Not only like large and full of good content, but just also accessible for a lot of different kinds of players.
Yes, there's something to like for everybody in these games, for sure. Love that we both gave Sayonara Wild Hearts a 10. I think that game's a masterpiece. I don't know that I would adjust anything. Again, I remember being kind of between 8.5 and maybe 9 on Stray. Maybe To the Moon I could take down a little bit. Now that I've replayed it and it has shown its age, I could maybe take it down to an 8 from an 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. I don't think I would touch anything else.
Okay.
Everything looks good.
Perfect.
So now we get to a very exciting section, which is the top 5 games we played this season. This is where we're ranking our individual top 5 lists of games from season 3. They can be any combination of secret or featured games. So maybe all 5 of mine are featured games. Maybe all 5 of DiscoCola's are secret games. Or maybe we each have a hybrid going on. And again, this is an emotional decision based on how we feel this very week we're recording. We're disregarding our scores here too. That's why we got those brief thoughts about scores out of the way up top. So if one of us feels a certain game is their number 1, but they originally scored it lower than their number 2 pick, we're not worrying about that at all. We're going to share one game at a time, going back and forth, starting with number 5, going down to number 1. We'll start with you, DiscoCola. And as we share each game, talk about what it accomplishes, why it beats out other games, whether we've revisited it or whether we've thought back to it since playing. Let's start with you, DiscoCola. Your number 5 game of season 3.
All right. My number 5 right here is Mutazione. And I think that this game creates a cast of likable characters. Overall, maybe a couple characters I don't like so much. And that really helped immerse me in the game, which doesn't happen to me too often. I usually get immersed in a feeling when I'm maybe doing a collectathon or something. But I actually found myself feeling like I wanted to explore the world of Mutazione. And I thought that was great. And that was done effectively, like I said, through likable characters and just really awesome music that fit the atmosphere of the game so well and just appealed to me as music that stands on its own. So Mutazione, my number 5.
Wonderful. My number 5 is Slay the Spire.
Oh.
This is very fresh in my mind, so this game might be prone to a little bit of recency bias there, but I had played Slay the Spire several years back, only for about 10 hours, and thought it was a really solid experience, like 8 or 8.5 out of 10. But now, getting about 27 more hours with it for Underplayed, I fell in love with how much this game can offer you in terms of card strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love going into runs, not really knowing what cards I'll be dealt, but also slowly gaining a better understanding of what's possible with each class. And so I can kind of start to look for possibilities of decks to build. And the more you progress through the 3 main acts, the more you can kind of learn what all the enemies do. So you feel like part of it is really randomized at first, but then that randomization starts to go away and you start to really do a lot more of the planning. When you get that right deck built, you just feel so powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and that's addicting. I want to keep chasing that rush of building a deck that lets me, multiply my strength until I have 100 strength and I'm doing crazy damage with the Ironclad, or multiply my poison on an enemy so that they're just taking tons of damage each turn, or getting all those orb slots with the defects and building up defense with frost and damage with, dark and lightning and stuff. Love how each of these characters feel different. So that's why I love Slay the Spire. Let's go on to your number 4.
All right. My number 4 is Chenzo Club.
Whoa.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it quite as much in maybe the last week as I've been working on some old platinums, but I think about doing some runs, and despite the really floaty jump, once you get enough of the power-ups to do some really incredible air combos, just slaying enemies without even touching the ground is an incredible feeling, and I love doing that. It's a lot like Castle Crashers when you are fighting a wave of enemies and you just stay in the air for entire screens, killing them long after they're dead. It's just, that's what it feels like when you can combo enemies in the air for so long.
Yeah, it feels like you're almost cheating.
Yeah,
in
a
way.
little bit.
Yeah,
a
I
little
remember
bit.
watching that trailer, and that was one of the most memorable moments in a trailer that I've seen on Underplayed, just seeing how airborne you can get.
Yeah,
and
that
just
was a great trailer.
chain it
That's
together.
why I bought it. Yeah, it's so good.
Wonderful. My number 4 is Device 6. This is one of my secret games from earlier on in the season, and this is from the same developer as Sayonara Wild Hearts. Device 6 is an incredibly innovative game that made me use my phone in ways I never thought I would use my phone. This is a game that's only on iOS, so you can play it on an iPad too. But this is a game I bought years and years ago and started and dropped off for some reason, got distracted, and I'm so sad that I didn't finish it all those years ago because this game has so many fun surprises, both in the gameplay, what it's having you do as you're going through this narrative experience, and then also like just the meta elements that it introduces. There are ways this game kind of talks about you, the player, and I didn't expect that. So this game is kind of a novel. You're reading this narrative about this girl in this castle, and then the way the story is presented to you reflects what is happening in the story. So when the girl needs to go down a corridor, a split path, you actually need to rotate your phone and scroll the text in one of the two directions. And it goes in so many directions from there. So many ideas are played with when it comes to sound and color and text. The game map that you're on is also the story, and it's also the thing that's giving you the clues to all the puzzles. And it's all changing in front of your eyes. It's just unlike anything else. Device 6 is probably not going to be as special on replay, but it's one I have thought back to so many times for all the things it made me do. Like seeing mirrored text and needing to hold my phone up in front of a mirror. Never had to do that with a game. And it also has really great atmospheric sound. And I played this with noise-canceling headphones, which was just unlike any other experience this season as well, doing that.
Awesome. I'd love to meet someone that can read mirror text, because I can read like upside down and when stuff is turned to the side, but mirror text just messes with my head.
I found that I could read it, but I was about 10 times slower reading that kind of text than normal text.
Interesting.
So at a certain point, I just went, I'm not going to struggle through this paragraph. I'm just going to get up and go to my bathroom and hold it up to the mirror. So, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm playing a game.
Playing a game.
Yeah.
What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
My number 3 is Slay the Spire.
Nice.
Yeah, for all the reasons that we have already said, I think about it a lot when I'm not playing it. It's sometimes I just like have that urge to do a run real quick. It's a perfect, well, I shouldn't say perfect, but it's close to the perfect length for when my kids are napping and I don't have enough time to maybe get into Outer Wilds and do a decent amount of loops. If I only have like an hour, maybe I'll just do a run of Slay the Spire. And it feels so nice to maybe get dealt something that you didn't want. Maybe I went in with the silent and I wanted to do a shiv run, but I'm getting poison.
Yeah.
I can adapt and maybe combine the two in a way that results in a win, or at least gets me really far, or at least in some really cool battles. So Slay the Spire is my number 3.
Great pick. My number 3 is Carto. This is one of my secret games. And you'll notice on my top 5 list, a lot of these games do something that's innovative, something I haven't seen in another game before. And Carto does that by introducing you to this girl who has to make her way back to her grandmother. Her grandmother is a cartographer and has all these map pieces that are spread around the world that you have to find. And instead of just assembling the map in one correct way, you can take all of those map pieces and rotate them 90 degrees at a time on Carto's map. And as she does that, the world around her changes. This is how you discover new people. This is how you get clues to puzzles. This is how you solve the puzzles. And it might sound like that might be a little crazy and hard to figure out, and that it could be so open-ended that you might not be able to find a solution. But the game has really nice boundaries that keep it so that it's the perfect difficulty. Carto is also beautiful to look at. It's one of the coziest games I've played. It feels like a warm hug when you're playing it. And I messaged DiscoCola at one point during the season after I had played Carto. And I was talking about 2 video games when I said this, but one of them was Carto. And I said, I love video games. I was just thinking about Carto in part while I was saying that to DiscoCola. So I'm genuinely happy that Carto exists. I want to introduce it to so many other people who either are gamers themselves or want to get into indie games. I think it's a great jumping on point for indie gaming. So that's why I picked Carto for my number 3.
Excellent. My number 2, moving on, is Spiritfarer.
Wow.
And I picked this because I think it takes resource management, which is not something that I always love, but just really got me invested in it. And I love taking all of my fibers and then turning them into string and then turning them into fabrics and, going through all those different levels of material. And it's just so fun to do. Gathering some of those materials are less than ideal, specifically the ore. But I have a lot of fun gathering items and making new things with them. And I like a lot of characters in Spiritfarer. So it was a good way to start the season. And I always smile, or at least a light grin, when I think about Spiritfarer. So Spiritfarer.
Yeah, I agree about what you said when you said it has a little bit of something for everybody. Like that is a package of a game, and it was a very fitting season opener game. My number 2 is Return of the Obra Dinn. Return of the Obra Dinn is a game about solving 60 mysteries. And I usually struggle with solving one mystery in games or in mystery films or TV series. I have a tough time following clues. It takes me, I feel, longer to absorb all the information and consider what might be possible. But at the same time, I have to keep following the narrative that's happening in real time. And Return of the Obra Dinn throws you onto this ship where you have to figure out how 60 people died or disappeared, or maybe they're still living. And I really struggled with this game the first 90 minutes. I only got like 3 fates correct. And I was like, how am I going to finish this game in time? And then I found that it stuck around in my brain. I was thinking about it when I wasn't playing it. I woke up the next day thinking about Return of the Obra Dinn, and I went back to the game that night and I got dozens of fates correct after like 6 hours of game time in one night. And it was a weeknight too. So this game just absorbed me in the moment. Again, it's unlike anything else I've played or probably will play. I'm amazed that it's developed by one person. I think it uses its 1-bit graphic style in a really interesting way where it's super restrained, but it makes you hone in on certain details that might actually be more of a challenge to hone in on in games that have more colors going on. So it is a design choice graphically that I think is really inspired and feels fitting. I love the music. I love the conversations that come out of this game. Like, who did you have trouble with?
Oh.
I had trouble with Tattoo Guy. You had trouble with Hat Man. That's really fun how like different people will play this game differently. No 2 people will play this game the same way in the same order. So I think that's fascinating too. So yeah, Return of the Obra Dinn is my number 2 of season 3.
Excellent. My number 1, I am sure guessed it.
I'm already typing it into our document.
Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah, baby.
The score reflects it perfectly. This is such a great game. The music is amazing. It's probably one of my favorite albums of all time now. At least top 50, but maybe even in the top 20. And I like a lot of music, so that says something. It's just great. Whenever I hear, Fighting Hearts, I just want to sit down and, press X at just all the right times. And
yes.
I think that's such a great level. And there's so many great levels that I just love to play. Even the YOLO arcade, which I've played since our recording, a daunting task to get through the game without dying, still sounds like fun to me to try and accomplish that.
Yeah, you feel energized by that prospect because, it still feels possible. And it's just going to take a little time.
And even if it's so difficult, at least I'm having a great time while I'm doing it.
You're listening to great music. and seeing some great visuals.
Absolutely. So, Bopo, what is your number one that I already know?
My number one is Never-Ending Nightmares. No, I'm just kidding. My number one is Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Of course it is.
This is a masterpiece. We explain it really well in our episode covering it, but I agree it's now one of my favorite albums. I've listened to this album several times in my car driving around since we reviewed it. If I don't know what to play for music, I'll just go to Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's my go-to album now. I'm amazed that this is developed by the same developer that developed Device 6, not because of its quality, but just because it's such a different game. So I believe that they can just do anything now. What else is there to say? Every moment in this game is different. Every 15 seconds, you're doing something different in this game. And that might sound too chaotic or too unfocused, but it's so polished. It feels so good. Sure, we don't like driving the car. We might not always like going in first person on a motorcycle, but those are just really tiny nitpicks in a game that's otherwise just a blast to play. I had so much fun going through the trophy list and doing all the miscellaneous challenges. That just gave me an excuse to go back in and hear the great music, see the fun visuals. Never got tired of any of the music, which is incredible. I can get tired of the same song pretty easily, maybe more easily than you.
Probably.
And that just didn't happen. Yeah, Sayonara Wild Hearts, it's not a surprise. It's our number ones, but I'm glad it is.
Now, Bopo, because I knew before we even finished episode 9 that Sayonara Wild Hearts would be our number one, I did pick a 6th game just as sort of like an honorable mention.
Oh, like
just because it was such a given that Sayonara would be number one.
I kind of have one of those too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also guessed a potential 6th game in case you went along with this bit.
This is getting I've lost the plot. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so may I mention an honorable mention that would have been on the list?
Sure.
My potential 6th game was Thumper.
Wow. Oh, I actually would not have guessed that. I know you liked that game. I just didn't know it was that high.
Super, super frustrating, but also when you can pull off all of those horrible, horrible reaction time, requests, it feels good and satisfying to accomplish something, even if it's unreasonable.
Gotcha.
Can I ask what your potential number 6 would have been?
My potential number 6 would have been Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition. And actually, Spiritfarer was in this list that I crafted weeks ago. And it was just that way until I played Slay the Spire and put those 27 hours in. So that's why I said Slay the Spire has the recency bias potentially. Ask me earlier in the season, time travel backwards, I would have said Spiritfarer many times for at least the number 5 spot. So yeah, it is definitely up there. So just because it's not on my list doesn't mean I didn't love that game. I'd still think it's one of the best games from 2020 as like a year.
All right.
So now we actually wrote down our predictions for each other, as DiscoCola alluded to. So what were your predictions for my list? Let's say our list again. Do you want to go?
Yeah.
You say your list again.
Okay, starting at, I'll start at 6. Okay. Thumper.
Sure.
Mutazione at 5. Chenzo Club at 4, Slay the Spire at 3, Spiritfarer at 2, and Sayonara Wild Hearts at 1.
Mine was, I guess, Spiritfarer as an honorable mention. Number 5, Slay the Spire. Number 4, Device 6. Number 3, Carto. Number 2, Return of the Oberdin. Number 1, Sayonara Wild Hearts. And now, DiscoCola, if you were paying attention to my scores, you might notice my scores largely can help you predict my list because I didn't really do anything surprising as far as putting them in a crazy order. Your list might not be the same story. So my predictions were harder for your list, I think. But what were your predictions for my list?
All 6 of mine, I have all 6 games correct, just not in the right order.
Yeah.
I even had Spiritfarer as the 6th one. I had Carto at 5. Oberdin at 4, or no. Oh, shoot. I have Oberdin on here twice.
Oh.
Whoops.
That just increases your chances of
I
getting
guess
it right.
It does. I did think it was going to be at number 2, which is where I put it.
Oh, okay.
And then Sayonara Wild Hearts at 1, and I had Device 6 at 3. So, I guess I guess it's Carto, Spiritfarer, Device 6, Oberdin, and Sayonara Wild Hearts. And I didn't put Slay the Spire on there, but I think I would have if I would have been paying attention to what I was writing.
Gotcha. So Carto, Spiritfarer, Device 6, Return of the Oberdin, Sayonara, Wild Hearts. You were pretty close.
Pretty stinking close.
Yeah, you had like all the games basically. My predictions for you, I was quite wrong. For number 5, I predicted Solar Ash.
Fair prediction.
Because, it wasn't as good as Hyper Light Drifter in your eyes, but again, what is? Very few games.
That's very true.
And you had a lot of positives with this, and you gave it a pretty high score. So I thought maybe it'll be on your list, but lower. Number 4, I predicted Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition. Number 3, Slay the Spire, which I hit. I hit that one.
You got that one. Perfect.
Then number 2, I predicted Stray.
Oh.
I thought you were going to put Stray really high up because you gave that a 9.5. You loved it. It's about cats. It was a game made in a laboratory for you.
Just for me, yeah.
So I thought that would be on there. But I guess I should have adjusted when you started talking about your score adjustments at the top.
Oh,
I thought,
no, it's
maybe.
fine. It's a fair guess, and I still liked Stray quite a lot. But it didn't, apart from being a game where you play as a cat and feeling pretty authentic as a cat and having cool robots, I don't think it did anything new.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of these other games are unique in some way or another.
Yeah.
Or at least like just stuck in my head a little bit better.
That makes sense. And I agree with that. Yeah. Okay. So I got 3
yeah.
on the list,
Yep.
not in the right spots, but 2 of them are in the right spot. Now let's move on to our jealous games. This is where we're only looking at our secret games. We're each sharing one game the other person played and reviewed that we want to play in the future or maybe wish we had picked. I will start with jealous games.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm just mixing it
Why
up.
not?
My jealous game is Mutazione.
Oh, really?
Yes. When I saw this
Wow.
game, I thought this is an indie game. It is just the epitome of indie games. And you gave it your highest score. It's on your list for the season. So, and I trust your opinion on this one. I think it looks quirky and interesting. It looks like you're doing some miscellaneous weird tasks for the trophies that you wouldn't think to do yourself. But nonetheless, I want to try this because, again, it just feels different.
Cool.
So.
I think if there's going to be any sticking point for you, it'll be the gameplay speed.
Okay.
I think if there's anything you won't like about it, it'll be that. And I would have guessed Narita Boy. That's what I was expecting.
That would probably be a runner-up. I think Mutazione was picked because you kind of helped educate me about it. I didn't know about it before the season. And as I look through your other games, I have pretty solid reasons for why I wouldn't pick a lot of them.
Mhm.
Like the Unfinished Swan, I've played that.
Yeah.
Rain World, I've played that, and it was aggressively hard, and I don't really want to try it again. Watum, I had pretty high hopes for, and you were a little underwhelmed by it, so I trust you there. Metagal, I actually played.
You played that. I saw that.
I played that the week after you played it. It was already in my library, in my backlog, and it's just kind of like, a poor person's Mega Man,
Yeah.
and so I don't need to play that. Thumper, again, is kind of like Rain World, where I'm not sure I'm always in the mood for a hard game. Narita Boy might have been a front runner for this, but you talked about how there was some clunkiness. You gave it a 7. You kind of tempered my expectations a little bit, so I cooled off on that one. And then Mighty Switch Force just might not be my favorite kind of game. Those Who Remain was your least favorite game of the season. And then Chenzo Club, another one that might be up there, but isn't quite my type of game, maybe compared to Mutazione.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think you will at least like it.
okay.
So I hope you get to play it.
Yeah.
You actually have 5 games that I do intend to play and 3 that I really, really, really want to play.
Oh, I want to know what they all are. but-
I will, but
what's your top one?
I think I'm going to say, by the very nature that I just ordered the physical copy last night, I will pick Carto as my jealous game.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to have so much fun with that. It's a great one with your kids too. Your wife would probably enjoy it too, or at least just appreciate what's going on if they don't want to play. But yeah, That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
What would be your others?
So I've always wanted to play Raji since I saw the trailer. I want to play Device 6, but I don't have an easy way to play that.
I'll let you borrow my phone sometime.
Okay, yeah,
we'll
that
do
makes sense. You don't need that for your livelihood.
No.
I want to play Tori 2, Carto, The Last Campfire. I also really want to play.
You
and that's
would really
probably
like The Last Campfire.
That's probably the second runner-up.
Yeah, you'd love all those games. Let us move on to underrated games. These are games they don't get. This is where having an entry is optional, and the way we interpret this category can be very subjective, but this is where we can each mention one game from the season, secret or featured, that is underrated. Maybe it is misunderstood by others who have shared opinions about it. Maybe it has review scores that we feel are too harsh. Or maybe we just don't think enough people have played it. It is quite literally an underplayed game, and not enough people have touched this. So what is your underrated game if you have one?
I do have one. I have two. But I'll pick one, Chenzo Club. I said it in the review. This is just one of those ones that is literally underplayed. I would love for more people to play this. Now, I think once more people do play it, it's definitely a game that will have people mixed. But I just want more people to play it before that general consensus is formed. And then, Mutazione is like a notable shout out for this spot as well. More people should play that.
Yeah, we looked at Chenzo Club and it only had a couple dozen players on PSN.
Yeah.
And just not a lot of people know
very
about
few like Steam reviews even.
Yeah,
so
that makes a lot of sense for this category. I picked one for this category too, and it is Tori 2. It might not be as unknown as Chenzo Club, but this is a game that I think people will judge by the look of it, and they won't know what all is in it. And it's not a very long game. It's maybe like an hour, but it also only costs $1. And so I think a lot of people could spend that $1 and experience the great controls in Tori 2. It feels awesome to play. It's very charming. It also has some really weird moments where it gets a little dark and twisted, never to the point of something like Doki Doki Literature Club, where it completely redefines the experience. But hey, they went for something. They had a little swing there, and they didn't have to do that, but they did. So I admire Tori 2 for taking the ideas in Tori and actually making them better. I look forward to more games from this developer. They just released a 3D platformer late last year that I want to check out as well, and that's only like $2 or $3 on Steam. So yeah, I love what they're doing, making these really nice feeling platformers that are very inexpensive. So more people should play them.
Excellent.
Now we go to overrated games or games we don't get. So this is where we can, again, have an entry optionally. The way we interpret this topic can be very subjective, but this is where we can each mention a game, secret or featured, that it's something along the lines of being overpraised by others, maybe a game that has review scores that are too generous, or is just overenjoyed by a lot of people, and maybe has had too big of a moment in a way that's appalling or confusing to us. And I'll just say right now, this season, I actually did not have an overrated game. Did
Excellent.
you?
I did.
Okay.
For this topic, I'm going to say Amnesia.
Okay.
I just didn't really have as much fun as I wanted or get as tense and scared as I had hoped that I would. The only time I really felt under any kind of pressure really was with the water enemy. But beyond that, I didn't feel like the stakes were high enough, just in general, overall.
Yeah, that water enemy happens super early on. It's a fun idea, and I wanted more of that. I want more of that enemy variety. And yeah, enemies despawning after you die in much of the game really kills that stress factor and allows you to kind of start speedrunning certain sections where you would otherwise want to sneak every time you fail. So that was unfortunate, but
yeah. I think maybe if I had played it when it was created, I don't know, maybe I would feel different, but it's just aged and yeah.
Sure.
I understand that it inspires a lot of really great games that came after it, like Outlast, and other games that like, but yeah, it just didn't do it for me.
And I understand that those first person like exploration games are really my thing. I'm always up for those kinds of games. So I think that's mostly why I ended up enjoying that one more than you. I just liked all the different moments in that. I thought there was good variety. But now we'll go to our biggest surprises. This is where we choose up to 5 moments where we were surprised by the games this season. We can interpret this in a very subjective way, once again. And these surprises can be positive, neutral, or negative. So maybe you didn't think a game would be a certain length, or maybe you weren't expecting a certain story twist. Let's start with you, DiscoCola. Just give us all of your surprises.
Cool. My first surprise is that I didn't really expect Narita Boy to commit so hard and so consistently to that 80s metal machismo culture. I cut that from mentioning it in the review, but it was a lot. And I think I've mentioned in the past on this show, like just how little value I kind of place on machismo. So it was just like a little bit of an eye roll every time, some inanimate character was just like putting up those, rock hands. I'm just like, give it a rest, guys. I wasn't expecting Chenzo Club to be a roguelike or have such great music. I didn't expect either of those things. I think I just expected a fun little platformer. Like I said in that episode, I thought it was going to be a Mega Man-like, and it was not. I didn't expect Ukulele to actually be as rough around the edges as I had heard. I thought, this is like when people complain about FPS and it's not going to be that bad. But it was pretty much as bad as a lot of people said. So that was a bit of a surprise. And then my last one is I didn't expect to like Slay the Spire. I thought I was going to hate that game, but I love it, and that was a huge surprise.
Very nice. Good variety there. Some positive ones, some negative ones. My surprises, first off, a tool leaving the boat in Spiritfarer Farewell Edition.
Ooh, good
choice.
choice.
The moment when the character Atul left my boat, I did not see coming. And Atul was the one passenger who was on my boat the longest of anybody in the game. So he meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. So that was also a very emotional moment for me. But the way he leaves is so sudden, and I just didn't see it coming. My next surprise is what I mentioned earlier about Device 6 and how the player themselves is included as a meta element in the story. And it's something I can't really delve into because I want you to play this game. I want listeners to not be spoiled on that. But I still think about that moment of that realization of what's going on. Next, the discovery of alleged survivors who actually didn't survive in Return of the Obra Dinn. So there is a moment in Return of the Obra Dinn where you meet a group that you figure out ended up being alive. They took a boat. They took like a little rowboat, I guess, to get off the boat. And you find out their fates are that they made it out alive. You come across another group who was doing a very similar thing. There's a memory where they're very clearly getting into a boat. So after you solve that other group's fates, you see this new group and you think, oh, same thing. They ended up alive. I just have to figure out where they are now. Mm-hmm. But then, like 5 hours later in the game, I'm going back through all the memories again, and I find that group of people that I thought were safe, and I see them off in the distance, and they're not the focus of this memory. The focus of this memory is a very blatant death. Someone is gruesomely just getting killed. I won't say how.
Their life is ending.
Their life is ending. It's their memory. But off to the side, I'm now getting a hint about what actually happened to that rowboat of survivors. And my jaw dropped. I didn't think that kind of thing was possible in that game before that. My next surprise is from The Last Campfire, and it's with this minor character called the Forest King, who I barely mentioned in my review. But the Forest King has a secret in The Last Campfire. It's closer to the end of the game. Love that moment. And last, how good the voiceover performances were in Solar Ash. I think all of the voiceover actors in Solar Ash are giving it their all. They're all very invested in their roles. They make me more invested in the game because of their performances. And I didn't expect that in the follow-up to Heart Machine's voiceless game that we think is a masterpiece. So, Great job, voiceover actors in Solar Ash.
Congratulations.
Now we move on to our favorite moments. This is where we can choose up to 5 moments. Selecting from all the games we played, we might pick a favorite narrative cutscene or a favorite combat encounter, a time when we finished something challenging and we felt really successful. So, DiscoCola, what were your favorite moments from Season 3?
All right. Walking around in Mutazione in the late night time period after a really tense scene and just feeling like I'm also decompressing from a stressful night of drama and just taking in that great music that's so subdued and fits the late night. Yeah, it was just like when I was watching the stressful scene with all the drama, it's just like there's cringe moments and there's moments of frustration and anger, and it just taking that second to end the scene and then have the title card say late night and just the perfect music starts. I was there. I felt it. So that's probably the first
You're
favorite
making me
moment.
want to play that one even more.
Great. I love it. Leaving the moment for the very last time in Spiritfarer is another favorite moment of mine. Both endings in Solar Ash and then realizing the greater scope of the plot once you get there.
Yeah, you had said that you had predicted one of the surprises in the game's story, but you didn't predict the other one.
Yeah, I did not. So realizing that whole overarching plot and how it tied into the endings was awesome. That was a favorite moment of mine. The Fighting Hearts level in Sayonara Wild Hearts, I've mentioned that probably 6 times in the scope of Underplayed now. That's a favorite moment. And then Parallel Universes in Sayonara Wild Hearts is my 5th pick.
Wow, nice. You're double dipping.
I'm double dipping. They were great moments, and I think about them all the time.
Wonderful. Mine were, I had a good variety here, I think. My first is the ending of To the Moon. So this is a game that has a very unique story. And partway through the story, something kind of sad happens. We realize for one of our protagonists to get what he wants, something sad has to happen. And then the ending happens and you realize that this beautiful story can still happen. And I remember this made me cry when I first played the game many years ago. And it didn't make me cry on replay, but I still found it effective. My next favorite moment is in Stray. And it's when you're exploring the slums.
Oh,
I think
cool.
the slums, as well as the Midtown, I think, is the other open area later in the game. But the slums in particular is just a really great kind of puzzle box that's fairly open. You walk around, you find collectibles, you find doors. You have to figure out how to unlock them. There's great set design. Lots of little nooks and crannies that you feel rewarded for finding. And so I liked just taking my own time and getting all that stuff solved before I progressed the story. My next favorite moment is whenever I would solve 3 fates in Return of the Obra Dinn.
That makes sense.
Whenever you solve 3 fates in Return of the Obra Dinn, it confirms it to you by locking it into your journal. And you also get this really satisfying music. The ba-ba-bum.
Yeah.
Bum, ba-ba-bum. Bum, 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 bum. I just love that. I want that to happen in my actual life when I figure stuff out. It's just so satisfying. It's the simplest confirmation, but done so effectively. My next favorite moment is when I played Album Arcade Mode in Sayonara Wild Hearts. This is just giving me the opportunity to go back through the whole game again. So it's kind of a cheat of an answer because I could pick all 5 moments from Sayonara Wild Hearts, but I'm basically choosing the answer that is me playing the whole game again. And then my last favorite moment is getting the true ending with what I call the strong silent type in Slay the Spire. This is where I was playing the silent. I was trying to do something like shivs or poison, and I ended up getting so far with the silent using like a more boring build that I didn't think would be effective, but it's just what the game spit out to me. And it's where I was more of like an Ironclad kind of character. And that's how I got the true ending in Act 4.
I'm sorry, you did that?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know I got the true ending?
I didn't know you got the true ending.
Oh, I think I mentioned it in our review.
I don't think you did.
Did I not? If I didn't, I did do that before our recording.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Wow.
So that was very satisfying, but also it was like with a build that I never expected to do that with. So I don't know, but it was very satisfying. So that's why it's one of my favorite moments.
Wow, I feel inadequate. I still don't feel that compelled to get the Act 4 ending, but
It takes a lot of luck for sure. All right, so now we move on to another choose up to 5 category. Our favorite characters from season 3. What characters were special to you? I'm going to start with this one.
okay.
My first pick is kind of a cheat. It is 2 characters that just go hand in hand together.
right.
So I'm picking them in as one slot.
Ukulele.
Sorry about it. Not ukulele this time. Actually, I do have a character from ukulele in my list.
Oh my gosh.
It's
okay.
it's not one of them. My first pick is Goddess Durga and Lord Vishnu in Raji, an Ancient Epic.
Oh.
These are 2 characters that narrate Raji's journey, and they go back and forth about their belief in her. One of them believes in her, one of them doesn't. They argue about it. That's such an unconventional way to hear narration, especially from like 2 godlike figures.
Uh-huh.
So that was unexpected. And I just liked that their banter made the adventure have more character to it. My next pick is a Tool in Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition. This is, again, the passenger that stayed with me the longest. I didn't want him to leave, and I was heartbroken when he did. My next pick is Trouser from Ukulele. And it's mostly to do with how he looks. He's a snake that's wearing shorts. He sells you your powers. He's the reason you can like progress. So that one's a less passionate pick, I think. My next pick is Karto in Karto. A great protagonist, someone that you just want to root for. My last pick is the narrator played by Queen Latifah in Sayonara Wild Hearts. I didn't know Queen Latifah was going to be in the game. That could have been one of my surprises. But the narrator is super effective at bringing me into the world of the game, adding, again, nice flair, nice character to Sayonara Wild Hearts.
She's your hype person.
She
She's
is.
Like, ooh, knockout.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to skip this bit?
Yes. Yeah. That's okay, Queen Latifah.
Appreciate it.
All right. What are yours?
All right. My first one is also 2 characters that go hand in hand, but one of them's not human. It is Stella and Daffodil. I think they're so cute. They're the silent protagonist, but they still exude a lot of character with their facial expressions and reactions. Daffodil's just adorable, and I love Stella's warmth and compassion with every other character. My second one is Stanley, also from Spiritfarer.
Wow. Is that the mushroom?
He is the mushroom. Okay. Yeah, he's just he's so adorable, and he tries really hard, but he's not confident. And I feel for him, and I think his whole story hit me the hardest. I think there are plenty of characters to love for plenty of reasons. Tool is definitely among them as well, but
then the way Stanley comes to you is just so unconventional.
Absolutely, yeah. He's just such a different character from everyone else on the boat, and I love him. Kai from Mutazione, she is pretty level-headed, down to earth, but also compassionate and able to get along with all of these other likable characters in Mutazione, and she fits right in right away, and I think that's just because of strong character.
Nice.
My fourth pick is the cat from Stray.
There you go.
It's pretty simple. It's a cat, but also it's more than that, and this cat just goes on this incredible journey with B12 and B12, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, because I remember thinking, oh, it's like the vitamin.
Yeah. But it goes on this incredible journey, and you find some emotional connection with the cat. I did, anyways.
For sure.
And then my fifth pick is Rey from Solar Ash.
Nice.
I think she is a strong character that cares a lot about a lot of things, and whose intentions are good at all points, regardless of what choices she's making.
Nice.
I like Rey a lot.
Very good picks. No crossover, too. We've had crossover before, but yeah, great variety there. We'll now move on to our final three categories. The first one is favorite storytelling. So this is where we select one game from the season that has the writing or narrative that sticks with us the most, or that we liked the most. DiscoCola, what's your favorite storytelling?
My favorite one is Mutazione.
Wow.
I've mentioned it already, but I've never been quite so immersed in a game, and it's mostly all on the basis of characters that I like a lot. It's more like what I wish Night in the Woods would have been, and that's just where I am with it. The final act isn't quite as fascinating as everything that leads up to it, due to its kind of leaning on some pseudo supernatural elements instead of the stronger character writing. But Mutazione is my pick.
Wow. Again, another reason I have to play that. I made a good choice with my Jealous game. My favorite storytelling is To the Moon. I don't think To the Moon is a great story every moment, especially when you're listening to or you're reading the dialogue between the two doctors. I think that can actually be kind of cringe.
Hmm.
But when you look at what the story is doing, it was revolutionary 10 years ago. I think it's still very fun and experimental to this day. And the ending is very emotional. I can't deny that. So I think To the Moon has very interesting, unique, and effective storytelling. Our favorite visuals now. Selecting from all the games we played in Season 3, we're picking a game with the graphics and visual style we love the most. I'll go first on this one. My favorite visuals for the season go to Stray.
Ooh, nice.
Stray has really nice fidelity. It just looks like a modern game, and it's, at the very least competent. I think it actually is more than competent there. But what really impresses me about Stray is the atmosphere and the set design. There are so many assets used everywhere. There are so many rooms that just look unique, that don't look like anything else in the game. We think about, production design and set design in movies. This game has really great set design and production design for a video game. And it just creates this world that's really immersive. So that's why I'm picking Stray this
Yeah,
time.
I think that's a great point. I don't think any character models are identical. I don't think any storefront looks exactly the same as another, even across different parts of the world. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
And a great mixture of like biological fiction and like neon lights and cyber cities and then dilapidated areas. There's just a good variety there too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Narita Boy is a good contender, but I decided to go with Solar Ash. I do tend to prefer pixel art games just in general. That's still always going to be true, but Solar Ash just uses all of those colors that I love, and that super grotesque slime and bone monstrosity and the remnants just sort of seals it for me. I love the look of the boss monsters. I just think they look so cool.
The remnants are iconic.
Yeah.
They're central to the idea of what that game is all about.
And just wearing down that bone as you do more damage and just becoming more and more slime and eyeballs. It's so good.
Very nice pick. And now our final category, favorite soundscape. Selecting from all the games we played, we pick a game with our favorite sound, either music or sound design or voiceover performance. Maybe it's a mixture of all those things. DiscoCola, what is your favorite soundscape for Season 3?
It's obviously Sayonara. It's music I would love on its own, but the way it pairs with the gameplay is just incredibly satisfying. It's so good. This is another one where if you do pick the same thing, I did set aside an honorable mention. So I'll let you go.
Why don't you share your
Okay.
honorable mention? Why don't you?
My honorable mention is Mutazione.
Okay, wow.
I mentioned the comparison to like Fooly Cooley's atmospheric music, which is an anime that leans heavily on great music. I think that's one of the more iconic pieces of that piece of media. So I think that's a great compliment for me to make about Mutazione's music.
And I am going to pick the same game you picked for this slot, Sayonara Wild Hearts. We have explained it to death. I think you put it perfectly, so I'm not going to say anything else. I think it's just a great soundscape. So that is it. That is our reflection on Season 3. Well done, DiscoCola.
Congratulations.
Yes.
We have played so many games.
We have. I want to just take this moment to just quickly thank everybody who has listened to Underplayed up to this point and has, given us feedback on like the games we're playing, has the people who have provided their own thoughts on the games, or just the people who have silently listened. We really appreciate it. We're getting more and more listeners over time. And, we do this first and foremost because it's fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So getting one listener is a reward. And to have more than that is just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, every time we notice the data that suggests someone new, it's like, oh, Bopo, look, there's someone new. They're going through all the episodes. We just get so excited. So
yeah,
it means a lot to us. And like Bopo alluded to, we would do this regardless. But
yes,
we appreciate that you're here.
It is now that time where we will move on to part 2 of our episode, where we plan Season 4's featured game roster. So this is always a super informal and messy section of these kinds of episodes. We're going to go back and forth on our picks for games for Season 4. We have a giant list, I think it's over 100 games, of eligible featured games. What makes a game a featured game? Well, it has to be an indie game, and it has to have a reputation. It has to be a prestige indie game. I think first and foremost, it has to be pretty well known. But it could also be something that's really innovative. It could be something that was nominated for lots of awards. But usually a lot of these things go hand in hand. So I think the shorthand way of describing it is indie games that are prestige games. Now, DiscoCola, we obviously have talked about this vaguely outside of the show, but I have not revealed any of what I want to pick for Season 4 to you. I think I know one of your ideas because we talked about doing it as a co-op game.
Yes, we do have one that's essentially picked ahead of time, and that one's taking up one of my slots.
So should we just get that one out of the way first? Did you want to add anything else up top? Before
I don't know.
Okay.
I have a few. I don't think there's going to be too much crossover, if any. Like you said, we do have a lot of games to pick from, but I picked games that I already have, with one exception, and I don't know if there'll be crossover, so I'm excited to get going.
Okay, one note I'll make about my 5 picks is to help guide my choices. This time, I came up with 5 categories of games, and I've picked actually 3 games per category.
So you have a lot more options than I came with.
Yeah. So instead of just arbitrarily picking games, I've come up with 5 different categories of games. They're not genres, but you'll see in a second. They're games that fit a certain description, just to help, guide me to games that I want to play, maybe guide me to games that I know a little bit less about. So it'll be interesting, I think. But if you pick one of my top picks, I have second draft picks as well as third draft picks. So I don't think I'll run out of options.
Awesome.
So your first pick is?
Yes, our first pick is Cuphead, and we are going to try to play this together in between seasons and utilize the Underplayed podcast Twitch channel to try and stream this and make that a little bit more than just a spot where we premiere episodes. So Cuphead, our first co-op game since episode 1 of season 1.
Yeah. Cuphead's a huge game, very popular, well-known indie game. So we're going to put our own twist on it by making it a co-op experience and make that a big part of our review for it. So that'll be super fun. My first category of picks is a game I don't want to play. This is something you mentioned earlier in this episode as well. But for my first pick for something I don't want to play, I'm actually picking something I have attempted before.
Okay.
And then I dropped off of.
Okay.
I'm picking Into the Breach.
Oh, okay.
Into the Breach is a strategy game with great pixel art that is hard. And because of its difficulty, I bounced pretty quickly. But I hope that this ends up being kind of like a Slay the Spire situation where it's a hard game that I actually give my patience to, and also a game that I discovered that I actually like and I didn't expect to like.
Cool.
So that is my pick for something I don't want to play.
I am moderately excited about that. I just played some music for that on the radio.
Ooh.
And really liked it, actually. I did not know that this was a hard game, but I am nonetheless excited to try it.
It was hard for me as someone who doesn't play strategy games.
Gotcha.
So maybe the average person wouldn't have as big
We'll
of a
see.
deal with it.
I'm not very strategic either.
We'll see. We'll struggle through it together.
Okay, my next pick comes from the platformer section.
Okay.
It has prestige for better or worse, and it is Mighty Number 9.
Wow. Okay. Let's do it.
This is a game. This is my first PS4 game. I also have it on Wii U, and I'm in the credits. I kickstarted the game, but
Wow. That's cool.
I haven't touched it since I ran credits once.
Oh my gosh.
So
I remember when this demo came out, I played it alongside you, or I watched you play
I think so.
years ago.
Yeah.
And so you have your Mega Man background. You're going to bring a lot of expertise to Mighty Number 9 when we review it. My next category for picks is something I want to replay from my past.
Okay.
A game that I've played years ago that I now want to replay for Underplayed. And my pick for this is Super Hot.
Oh, okay.
What were you going to say?
One of my picks I thought you might mention because it's a game from our past.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I had 3 games picked for each of these categories.
Cool.
So what you were thinking might be one of my other 2.
Now, quick question about Super Hot, and I think I've asked you this before, but I don't remember the answer.
It's not VR.
Okay,
It's not VR. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was first and foremost released not in VR, and then it was added. VR was added later. Yeah.
Okay. It seems very much like a VR game.
I've only played it in non-VR situations.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I've played it in both situations, but I first played it in standard mode.
I'm willing to play a VR game. I just don't have the tools.
That is understandable, which we don't have any VR only games on our lists.
Cool.
That I know of. So
okay.
We're good. Your next pick.
My next pick, I'll just go for the one from our past. I want to finally get the last trophy in Limbo, so I want Limbo to be one of our games.
That is dope. I love that pick. And I love it because it comes from the team that developed Inside, which is also on our list of featured game possibilities. And I think it would just make sense to get Limbo done before Inside.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to play Inside this season. I just want to do Limbo first.
And Inside's a game I haven't played on my own yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. And on the flip side, I've played that solo like 3 times. That's crazy. Okay. Very good. My next category is something cozy.
Ooh,
a cozy game.
I like cozy games.
Again, I have 3 options here. None of them have been picked so far. I'm going with my first pick, which is Chicory, A Colorful Tale.
All right. Well, going off of that, my next pick is one that, if you remember when we did put Chicory on the list, it was a one of those ones that actually was a little bit argumentative.
Yes.
And so my next pick is actually one that maybe doesn't meet your standard, but meets mine.
But it's in our list.
It's in our list, and
agreed to it.
I think I twisted your arm for it. Unsighted.
Oh, Unsighted. Yeah, I definitely. And it's a roguelike. Or no, it's a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
And we don't have that represented so far.
Which is unusual
list.
For us, actually, now that you say it.
Yeah, so perfect. I'm down to play Unsighted. My next category is something that released last year.
Ooh.
So something that released in 2022.
I have an idea. I have an idea of what it is.
I had 3 ideas.
Okay.
But I'm picking Cult of the Lamb.
That's not what I thought.
Were you thinking Tunic?
I was thinking Tunic.
Yeah, I almost went with that one. That was my 3rd draft pick.
Oh.
Yes.
What was second?
Sifu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb is something I've wanted to play way before day one.
Okay.
So I'm excited for it. I don't know if my physical will get here in time, but excited.
So now that was our 8th pick.
Okay.
Now it's your final pick.
My final pick.
This is awesome.
Based on the game lengths that we have so far represented, I'm going to pick one that's slightly longer, maybe even a little bit longer than that based on difficulty. I want to finally finish Blasphemous.
Oh, wow. Okay. And this is a Metroidvania too, right?
Yes, so
Okay,
we
yes.
probably capped out on that with
No
the
more-
2.
No more Metroidvanias. Okay.
We average about 2 of those per season anyway.
Okay. Sounds good. My final pick, looking at the list, I might swap what I originally was going to pick. But my last category is something I just really want to play.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cheap category, but I saved it for last. I'm just going to go with my original top pick. I'm going to go with Toem.
Okay. Toem.
Toem.
How are you feeling about Blasphemous? I do have one alternate that I'd be willing to swap in.
Blasphemous, I don't know as much about it as you. I know it's decently hard, right?
Yeah.
And it's 13 and a half hours for the main story. I mean, I would play it if I know about it ahead of time for sure. It's on our list. We got to play it sometime.
Well, that's true, but
All
okay. All right.
What was your other?
My alternate is Abzu.
Oh,
Which
I'd
I've
go
never
with
played. I've never played that, but I have it.
Yeah.
How long is Abzu actually?
It is short.
Ooh, it is very short.
Your call.
You know what? My youngest kid's still pretty young. They're not quite sleeping through the night yet, and my hours still are terrible. Let's go with Abzu instead.
Okay. I'm excited about that. Abzu.
Blasphemous, I will play you soon, but not this soon.
So that means our lineup, not in the correct order yet, is Cuphead, Into the Breach, Mighty Number 9, Super Hot, Limbo, Chicory, A Colorful Tale, Unsighted, Cult of the Lamb, Abzu, and Toem.
Bopo, you know what?
What?
I think if we maybe swapped Cult of the Lamb and Cuphead, I think that might be a pretty solid order.
Oh, yeah. I guess I assumed Cuphead was going to be our season opener because we were doing co-op stuff.
It
doesn't
could
have to be.
But because we only have one night of the week where I can possibly play that with you co-op.
So it might take even longer.
Yeah. Let's look at that and see what you think.
Okay. So you got Cult of the Lamb, which is like a roguelike game. It's got a lot going on, but you're gathering like a village of followers for your cults.
Yeah. And I think it's a good opener because it was one of the most notable games as far as indies go last year.
Some people's favorite indie game from 2022. Then you've got Into the Breach, which is a very different game, strategy game.
Cool.
Mighty Number 9, an action platformer. So that's different. Super Hot, which is a first-person action game that's shorter. So that is still different. Limbo, which is a side-scrolling platformer. Chicory, A Colorful Tale, which is kind of a top-down adventure game where you're painting the world. Unsighted, which is a Metroidvania. And then you've got Cuphead, which is a side-scrolling action bullet hell kind of. Arcadey too.
Yeah.
Then you've got Abzu, which is an adventure game that takes place like underwater, from what I can tell. And then Toem, which is another kind of like adventure game where you're taking pictures of things.
Okay.
One thing I would say is that we usually like to have like kind of a big event game for our last episode. I'm not sure Toem fits that, but I'm not sure I also care. I'm probably good with it as is.
Okay, so if it wasn't Toem, what would you put there?
I don't know. Maybe Cuphead?
Okay. We could close with Cuphead. I'd be fine with that.
Would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Would you want to just, so like Chicory, Unsighted, Abzu, Toem, and Cuphead?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me put that there. The only other thing I might swap is Abzu and Limbo. I don't know. What do you think?
Swapping them so that we don't have two adventure-like games next to each other?
Essentially.
I get that. Let's do that.
Is Abzu too close to Super Hot?
I don't believe it will be. No.
Okay.
Super Hot is pretty singular. Super Hot is a first-person shooter where every time you stop moving, the world freezes.
Okay.
So we have Season 4, Episode 1 will be Cult of the Lamb. Episode 2, Into the Breach. Episode 3, Mighty Number 9. Episode 4, Super Hot. Episode 5, Abzu. Episode 6, Chicory, A Colorful Tale. Episode 7, Unsighted. Episode 8, Limbo. Episode 9, Toem. Episode 10, Cuphead.
What do you
love
think?
it. I love it.
I like it.
It's great. Great variety. I'm locking it in.
Cool.
Very nice. Well, so that will do. We'll start planning for all these games. We'll start maybe playing them on our own time, but we're going to take a little break between seasons. Again, we want to thank everybody who's listened to Season 3. And the next time you hear from us, we will be reviewing Cult of the Lamb as our featured game on Season 4, Episode 1.
I would expect that in early July
2023.
2023.
Wonderful. So that'll do for this episode and the season of Underplayed. You can find more of our episodes at kzum.org/underplayed and on common podcast services like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Our music was composed by Jack Rodenberg. Our art comes from Oni Mochi. Underplayed is on Twitter at underplayedpod. You can find me on Twitter at Bopo, that's BO_PO, and check out that same handle on the GG app where you can see my game lists and what I'm currently playing.
And I'm at DiscoCola on Twitter, Twitch, and the GG app, showing up whenever I can. And follow at Underplayed Podcast on Twitch so you can see the both of us playing Cuphead.
Yes, we'll be doing that a lot in the coming months. We're going to take a little break. We hope to have a good time. We hope you have a good time in the break. And next time on the show, you will be hearing us review Cult of the Lamb, which is a roguelike game developed by Massive Monster. Until then, everybody, keep on playing.